10 years ago, my younger brother went mad and attacked people on the street with a kitchen knife, leaving over 10 dead or injured. I stopped my mother, who had been slashed, from going over. My mother was so enraged that she bit off a chunk of my flesh. My brother was shot dead on the spot. Later, my mother always kept silent about my brother, never mentioning him again. I also thought she had let the matter go, until I was diagnosed with stomach cancer. The night before I passed away, my mother told me, "You can finally go keep your brother company." Only then did I realize that my illness was her doing. She had resented me for so many years. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my younger brother was first arrested by the police. On my 30th birthday, I lay in the hospital bed, quietly awaiting death. After the unwillingness, there is only acceptance. Looking at my mother with graying hair, my eyes welled up with tears, filled with reluctance. "Mom, take good care of yourself. You're the only one I can't let go of." She, however, looked as if she was holding back laughter, barely able to contain her amusement. "There's nothing to worry about. You've left me so much money. I couldn't spend it all even in my next lifetime." I was utterly astonished. "When did I leave you any money? I lied to you about the 600,000 yuan debt our family owes." "What?" "Back then, I was forced to drop out of school to work. For 10 years, I've lived in constant fear, never having a good night's sleep, always haunted by the thought of that 600,000 yuan hanging over my head. And it turns out it was all a lie." "Why, Mom, why would you lie to me about something like that? I was studying in Haicheng, just one semester away from graduating and making something of myself. How could you?" My mother suddenly stood up, glared at me fiercely, and slapped me twice across the face. I was already drained and exhausted, with no strength left in my body. She had beaten me until I saw stars, my head spinning, yet I still wanted to know the reason. Why on earth did you deceive me? I worked so hard to get into university. Why are you forcing me to drop out over something like this?" She spat on my face. "Pa, ever since you killed my son, you stopped being my daughter. What's wrong with coaxing you into giving me some money? This stomach cancer of yours, I carefully nurtured it. Your stomach cancer was detected at an intermediate stage during last year's check up. I deliberately told you it was nothing, just so I could wait until you were beyond saving, and no one could help you. I want you dead. I want you to die in excruciating pain. It's not easy living with this illness, is it? Your suffering brings me joy." I might have almost forgotten if she hadn't brought it up. I still have a younger brother. Back then, I saved her from Zhao Yuan's blade, yet she bit off a chunk of my flesh. I thought she had let it go since she never mentioned it again, but it turns out she never forgot, and even transferred that hatred onto me. After all these years of exhausting myself to raise her for a decade, what does she take me for? Heartbroken, I clutched my mother's hand. "He was going to kill you. Was I wrong to save you? I'm your child too. Why would you go to such lengths to harm me? All these years, I've worked myself to the bone to support her. Even if there's no credit, at least there's hard work. Right, my son is dead. What's the point of me living? If it weren't for avenging my son, I would have followed him long ago." She tugged at my oxygen tube. "How does it feel to be on the brink of death? Take a good taste of what my son felt back then. Go die." I never imagined that after a lifetime of blind filial piety, I would be killed by my own mother, all because I saved her life from her son's knife. I hate her. I thought I was dead, but when I opened my eyes, I found myself back 13 years ago, on the day my brother was first taken away. Seeing her again, my whole body trembled, hatred surging in my chest. This time, I'm going to watch closely. Without me, how well can my mother live? Clinging to her precious son, Zhao Yuan was handcuffed, hiding in the corner without saying a word. My mother tugged at the police officer's sleeve, crying and making a scene, refusing to let them take my brother away. "You've got the wrong person. My son would never steal anything. He even won a 3 Good Student award in 5th grade. He's really a good kid. You must have made a mistake." Seeing that the police ignored her and insisted on taking Zhao Yuan away, my mother panicked instantly. She suddenly grabbed my sleeve and shoved me toward the police officer. "It was her. It must have been her. Just take her away. Don't arrest my son." She dug her nails hard into the flesh of my arm, giving me a meaningful look. The police were utterly astonished. "We have surveillance footage that captured your son in the act of stealing. It must have been his sister who put him up to it. My son is so well behaved at home. It's all her fault. She must have corrupted him. Arrest her if you must, but don't take my son. He's still young. What does he know? It's the older one who led him astray." As she spoke, my mother suddenly slapped me across the face. "What are you standing there for? Go confess to the crime right now. I'm telling you, you incited my son to steal. And I won't let you off the hook. In my past life, I was the epitome of a filial daughter, foolish enough to follow my mother's instructions and take the blame for my brother. Not only did I miss the exam, but I also became the thief in everyone's eyes. My mother, in order to clear my brother of blame, has been telling everyone that I am the thief. Zhao Yuan, the real culprit, ended up being seen as the poor soul dragged down by me. Everyone accused me of being rotten to the core. Stealing money meant for someone's medical treatment. No matter what, I still have my pride. How could I possibly remain indifferent to all those rumors and gossip? Whenever I voiced my dissatisfaction, my mother would always shut me down with the phrase, "The eldest sister is like a mother, the eldest sister is like a mother." In the old days, if I died, wouldn't you have to take care of your brother? You should treat him as your own child and love him, no matter what. The child still calls you sister. After your father and I are gone, you'll still have a family to turn to. If you don't have a brother, what will you do in the future? If you're all alone in this world, won't you die of loneliness? I almost pathologically believed that what my mother said was right, so much so that when I was isolated by my classmates or gossiped about by others, I would resort to self-hypnosis and self-pity, acting all high and mighty, as if she were radiating the glow of motherhood from head to toe. I was foolish back then. This time, I can't let her treat me like this again. I forcefully pulled my hand away, ignoring her unpleasant expression, and said loudly, "I didn't steal anything. Excuse me, I need to get to school." I opened the door to leave, but my mother grabbed my arm. "You can't go, you're coming with your brother to the police station." I refused. "I'm not going." She held me firmly. "You have to go." As someone who's been through it, I know exactly why she insisted I come along. It's nothing more than setting the stage before throwing mud at me. I quickly pulled open the door and immediately raised my voice to wail. "The police already said Zhao Yuan stole the stuff, so why are you forcing me to confess? Zhao Yuan's reputation matters, but mine doesn't. How can you be so biased? It was clearly Zhao Yuan who stole it, so why are you framing me? Are you even my real mother? I have a mock exam today, a very important one. I have to go. Officer, please help me convince my mom. I really didn't steal anything, and I still have to take the exam." Originally, the police had come quietly to make the arrest, and hardly anyone in our building knew about it, but after my loud shouting, at least 3 or 4 floors worth of people came out to see what was going on. At this moment, my father, who had been invisible for a long time, finally put down his bowl and chopsticks and came out to stop my mother. "Let her go take the exam. What kind of spectacle is this with so many people watching? You may not care about losing face, but I do. Let her go." The sight of everyone pointing and whispering fell upon my mother's eyes, and she was truly about to go mad with anger. "You wretched girl, still pulling this trick on me. I'll beat you to death." Just as she rushed over, still wanting to hit me, I slipped into the crowd and turned to leave. The exam is what matters. Given another chance, I will do everything in my power to leave this home. When I returned home in the evening, my mother was already waiting for me in the living room, holding a clothes hanger. I had just stepped through the door when she started swinging at me. "You want to die, don't you? You made me lose so much face this morning. I could kill you and it still wouldn't be enough. That's your brother. He's still so young. How could you let him end up in a place like the police station? As his sister, not only did you not think about him, but you were practically shouting to everyone that he stole. You're a scorpion, a viper. I raised you for nothing. I should have just drowned you in a chamber pot when I had the chance. I didn't just stand there and take it. Instead, I snatched the clothes hanger from her hand. Didn't you hear what the police said? He was caught stealing on camera. The evidence is solid. How am I supposed to take the blame for him? Besides, if both of us end up in there, you'd be even more embarrassed, wouldn't you? Instead of blaming me for not taking the fall for him, you should think about how you spoiled Zhao Yuan into becoming like that. Smoking, drinking, stealing. He's still so young. And he never listens no matter how many times he's told. How many times has he been caught already? She always brushes it off by saying he's still a child and will grow out of it. After I mercilessly pointed out her mistakes, she raised her voice. "You've really grown some nerve, haven't you? I can't even talk to you anymore. Am I your mother or are you mine? What are you ordering me around for, showing off your skills in front of me? I'll discipline my son however I want. What right do you have to speak? Am I his mother or are you? If you won't take care of him, fine. But don't you dare kick me while I'm down. Watch out or I'll slap you across the face." She always uses this kind of talk to shut me down. I don't want to keep arguing with her. She's a very extreme person. and she holds grudges fiercely. I still carry some resentment and fear toward her. She glared at me with hatred before turning and heading back to her room. As for my father, he just sat there smoking, watching us argue. He didn't say a word, not even a flicker of expression on his face. I glanced at him. Even though it had been 10 years since we last saw each other, I didn't miss him at all. During my junior year winter break, my younger brother tried to steal money and was scolded by our father. In a fit of shame and rage, he grabbed a knife and killed him. He then took the knife to the streets and began slashing people at random. My mother and I tried to stop him, but we were both wounded by his blade. Later, he was shot and killed. Looking at my father now, I suddenly felt a sense of release and smiled. This is what they call, every cause has its effect. He never cared for his children, letting my mother spoil my brother without restraint. Later, when he wanted to intervene, he couldn't control the situation anymore, and even lost his life because of it. It truly wasn't worth it at all. Although my parents favored my brother, they cared even more about their reputation. In my mother's view, my brother is her pride and dignity. She always says that if it weren't for giving birth to my brother, she wouldn't be able to hold her head up in public. In my father's eyes, face encompasses much more. All he cares about is his own authority, but he's also lazy, so he only steps in to say a few words when major matters are about to conclude, just to prove his authority. The long-lost family of 4 left me feeling utterly suffocated. After returning to my room, I began burning the midnight oil. It had been 12 years since I last studied these subjects, and I had long forgotten everything. Today, I struggled mightily and still couldn't finish all the problems. My grades have definitely dropped compared to before. Because of this, I can only work even harder, striving to achieve my previous scores in the college entrance exam and fulfill my dream of going to university. Not long after things settled down, trouble struck at home again. Zhao Yuan was detained for a day to scare him, but in reality, because of his young age, he was let off after paying compensation. There wasn't really any punishment to speak of. Inside, he even met more troublesome delinquents, losing all interest in studying and only thinking about dropping out to join the streets. After returning home, he started making a fuss about dropping out of school. It wasn't until the teacher called my mom that she found out my brother had beaten up the school principal in his attempt to quit school. The director was tough too, and called the police right away. My brother almost ended up back in jail within just a week. She rushed to the school, apologizing and begging for mercy. When she came back and tried to scold him, he glared and yelled, "Mind your own business." My mom was practically fuming. "What? How old are you? What are you dropping out for? To become a delinquent? If you're not embarrassed, I am." Zhao Yuan almost got into a fight with her. "I told you to stay out of it. What else do you do besides meddling in my life? Can't you find something of your own to do? What does it matter to you whether I drop out or not? You at least need to go to a vocational school, so you can learn a skill to support yourself. If you drop out now, how will you eat? You're so young, you won't even be able to find a job." My mother screamed at him hysterically. "Are you going to steal again? Aren't you ashamed after getting caught last time?" Zhao Yuan, struck where it hurt, flew into a rage out of humiliation. "You won't buy it for me, so why can't I steal it? If you had bought it for me earlier, why would I have stolen it? It's all your fault." Listening to their argument, I hid in my room, barely able to hold back my laughter. The most important reason Zhao Yuan became a bad kid was his inherent selfishness. Over the years, my mother spoiled him too much, granting his every wish. He had long become a high-maintenance person, with numerous and unrealistic demands. Gradually, when my mother could no longer provide, he learned to steal. Once a person's ambition swells, it becomes an abyss. He had long since started stealing, taking money from home more than once. My mother always thought it was nothing. After all, he was just a child. She just never imagined that someone who could steal at home would only become more brazen outside. Now she's reaping what she sowed, and since she can't do anything to my brother, her resentment toward me has grown even more. "You damn girl. Make sure you look after your brother from now on, you hear? Give him some of the money you earn. I've fed you, clothed you, and paid for your education all these years just so you could support my son, you know that." Seeing that I didn't react, she deliberately raised her voice and shouted, "Listen to me, my precious son. I bought your sister a big insurance policy, and I made you the beneficiary. If she ever refuses to give you money in the future, Mom will just stab her to death for you." I put in my earplugs. I don't have much time left to study, and I can't afford to waste it on such pointless nonsense. After the college entrance exams, I found a part-time job. I opted for a student loan, which allowed me to borrow 8,000 yuan a year. The tuition at Haicheng University is 5,200 yuan per academic year, plus 800 yuan for accommodation. I only needed to save up a bit for my living expenses, so when looking for a job, I didn't bother being picky and just took a part-time gig at a convenience store. With an hourly wage of 18 yuan, I practically wanted to live at the store. That's why I ended up taking almost all the night shifts. One night, when the store was empty, I was secretly dozing off. Suddenly, I spotted a furtive figure on the surveillance monitor. Almost without needing to think, I recognized the person stealing in an instant. It was my younger brother. I called out his name coldly, Xiao Yuan. He impatiently tossed the items in his arms onto the checkout counter. What? I'm your brother. You stole something. He remained nonchalant. Why don't you just pay for me? I flared up instantly. Why should I pay for you? Aren't you working as a waitress at a street food stall? How come you have no money? I glanced at the items on the cashier's counter. They were only worth about 30 yuan. Given how much my mom dotes on him, it's not like he couldn't afford such a small amount. After all, the last time he got caught stealing, it was an iPhone. Finally, in our silent standoff, he gave in, looking at me and rubbing his nose. I didn't steal these for myself. They're for my girlfriend. She's pregnant. What's the matter? I had just asked when suddenly my mind went completely blank. I knew he was a jerk, but I never expected him to be this. Yet, taking advantage of my stunned state, he grabbed the items and tried to run. Just take pity on your nephew. It's only a few dozen bucks. You can pay for it. I chased after him. Xiao Yuan, just this once. You need to bring the items back and scan them for piece rate counting. Things are getting more and more interesting. I'm suddenly a bit excited to see how the situation unfolds, especially when I found out that Xiao Yuan's girlfriend is 2 years older than me. I could barely keep a straight face from laughing. After the college entrance exam results came out, my score was 3 points lower than in my previous life. Fortunately, the difference wasn't too great, and I still applied to Haicheng University. That unfinished education had almost become an obsession of mine. When my mom found out about my grades, she surprisingly bought me a new phone worth 2,000 yuan. You did well, this is your reward. Since it was free, I didn't hesitate at all and took the phone right away. She looked at me with a flattering smile, and I thought she was proud of my achievements, ready to butter me up. After all, I had brought her honor. But as soon as she opened her mouth, I almost got into a fight with her. Liar, could you drop out of this university? I really don't understand. Why? Our family's education levels aren't that high. If yours is too high, how will you communicate with everyone else? I laughed. That's not what you said when you told Xiao Yuan to study hard before. As I spoke, I pulled up the previous recording and turned the volume up to maximum. Yuan, you must study hard and get into the best university. Nowadays, without a college degree, you won't have any future prospects. You have to make your mother proud. As a man, you should at least surpass your sister. My mother's face turned ashen, as if something was stuck in her throat. She stared at me for a long time, unable to utter a word. Then she resorted to her ultimate weapon, ready to hit me. I had already made all the necessary preparations and left with my new phone. Once you leave, don't come back. You wretched girl, can't even take a word of criticism. You won't even listen to your own mother. What will you ever amount to in the future? Everything I could use. I had slowly moved out long ago. The store manager knew my situation and made an exception by setting up a small bed for me in a corner of the warehouse. I no longer needed this home. Working the night shift at the store means extra money. I'd practically live there if I could. That night, when my dad came looking for me, I finally understood the real reason she didn't want me to go to school. Liar. Has your mother spoken to you? Yeah, my dad sighed, scratching his head, unsure where to begin. Even though I'm not exactly a great dad, I have to tell you this, otherwise, my conscience really won't let me rest. Somehow, a sense of foreboding suddenly washed over me. What's going on? My dad rubbed his face. Your brother's got a girlfriend, and she's pregnant. Her family wants to arrange a marriage exchange. I asked in confusion, what's a marriage exchange? He stammered through his words, but I felt as if struck by lightning. It means, she has an older brother who became mentally disabled after a fever as a child. And he still hasn't married. The woman's family is demanding a marriage exchange. You marry her brother, and your younger brother marries that woman. Otherwise, they'll accuse your brother of rape. Your mother agreed. I knew my mother was disgusting, but I never imagined she could stoop to such depths. So this phone wasn't a reward for me after all, but rather compensation given out of guilt. What the hell? My dad stuffed some money into my pocket and told me to get out of here quickly. I sat in the shop in a daze for a long time, until the next customer came to check out. Only then did I snap out of it. My hands had long since gone numb from the cold, trembling uncontrollably as I held up the scanner. I was terrified. I knew I had to run. If even someone like Xiao Qirong had come to warn me, it was enough to prove just how serious the situation had become. Quit immediately and pack up. 4 hours later, with my luggage packed, I boarded the bus to Haicheng after nearly 2 months of work. I earned 4,800, plus the money my dad gave me. That adds up to about 7,000 yuan. I've worked in Haicheng for 10 years, and I know how to keep living costs to a minimum. I know what kind of jobs I can take to earn money. Sure enough, after I settled down in Haicheng, I received a message from my former convenience store manager. Did you run away from home? Your mom has come to our store looking for you several times. Come home after you've finished throwing your tantrum. Auntie seems really worried about you. I heard she even called the police. Looking at the message he sent, I truly felt relieved that I had run away quickly. If I had delayed any longer, I probably would have been caught and dragged back long ago. Since I blocked all her contact methods, my dad had already told me in advance that he wouldn't be reaching out to me anymore, so when his phone number called me, I didn't answer. After the call ended, text message notifications kept popping up one after another. Zhao liar. You already know. Did Zhao Qirong tell you? Let me tell you, this marriage has already been arranged for you. Whether you want to marry or not, you have to marry. Do you think you can run away for a day and hide for a lifetime? I'll wait by the university you're going to, searching for you one by one. As long as you're not afraid of losing face, I'll make a scene everywhere, until everyone knows, until you can't stay there anymore. I couldn't help but reply, if you're so eager to find a partner for Zhao Yuan's girlfriend's brother, why don't you divorce and marry him yourself? I think the two of you are quite a match, both equally foolish. What, you look down on that fool? If you don't want him, don't push him on me. I'm not a garbage collector. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot of her message and called my homeroom teacher. After explaining the situation to him, he agreed to keep my university admission confidential, not disclose it publicly, and forward the admission letter to me. I had my guard up from the very beginning, so I didn't fill in my home address on the admission notice. Now it's actually come in handy, but every time I think about my mom, I get so angry it feels like my heart might give out. I'm very familiar with Haisher, but part-time jobs aren't easy to come by here. To secure a steady source of income, I bought an electric scooter at a rock-bottom price on the local second-hand platform and started delivering food. To save money, I often ate nothing but steamed buns with pickled vegetables for all 3 meals a day. If the weather turned cold, I'd treat myself to a bowl of plain noodles for 5 yuan to warm up. Day by day, life went on, and at least there was hope to hold on to. That was until my teacher called to tell me that the admission notice had been sent to me. I suddenly felt a bit dazed. These days have been too bitter. So bitter that I thought I could hardly hold on any longer. I never expected that only 2 months have passed now. Even August hasn't reached its halfway point. School starts on September 10th, so I can still take orders for another month. I'll make a nice, tidy sum of money. From that day on, it was as if I became addicted to earning money. I'd even go out to take orders when I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. As long as I'm making money, I'll do anything. All I want now is to save up for school. Zhao Qirong occasionally gets in touch with me to ask how I'm doing. I don't know what's really going on with him, and I won't easily tell him about my current situation. He, on the other hand, has been telling me a lot about what's happening at home, bit by bit. For instance, my mom and my brother's girlfriend got into a street fight, and the baby was lost. The whole incident became public knowledge. My mom is even afraid to go out to buy groceries now, terrified of being gossiped about. My brother has also cut ties with my mom, stealing money from home and running away. Now, no one knows where he's gone. My mother reported it to the police and searched for several days, but there was no progress. He said my mother kept complaining at home, blaming it all on me, thinking that if I had obediently married that girl's brother, she and my brother wouldn't have fallen out. When I read this, I laughed. She really is that kind of person, always shifting the blame onto me. Actually, it has nothing to do with me at all. She's just used to finding someone to bear the brunt of her resentment. Just before school started, Zhao Qirong came to Haicheng to meet me. I didn't dare take him to my rented apartment. We just found a place to have a meal together. He's never been one to express himself much. Maybe over the phone, he could say a few more words. While eating at the buffet with me, he couldn't utter a word for a long time. He just stared at my face and murmured, "Didn't I give you money? How did you get so thin? Now you're both dark and skinny, like a little black chicken." I smiled and said, "Delivering food under the sun, then why don't you buy a hat to cover it? Eat more vegetables. I came to see you this time to bring you money." He pulled out 5,000 yuan from his pocket and stuffed it into my bag. This is for your tuition, your mother keeps a tight watch, so I finally managed to get my salary card out. After all these years of Zhao Yuan stealing from it, there's not much left. This is money I've saved over 2 months. If you run out of money, just tell me. I've set a password on my phone, so your mother won't be able to take it from me anymore. I took the money, and it was as if he suddenly opened the floodgates, chattering away to me non-stop. For decades, this was the first time. We were just like a real father and daughter. He gave me a lot of advice, mostly about getting along well with classmates, not causing trouble but also not being afraid of it when going out, and calling him if anything happened. I kept my head down, eating, occasionally looking up to agree with a few words. At the end, he suddenly looked at me, somewhat hesitant to speak. I was actually planning to divorce your mom, but she's pregnant again, and I'm thinking she's completely given up on Zhao Yuan. Liar, if your mother changes, you can always come back. After all, this is your home. I clutched the heavy cloth bag and nodded aimlessly. He patted my shoulder. Your mother and I were wrong before, but I've come to realize that no matter what, I'll support your education. I'll talk to your mother about it. Just give me some time, study hard. I've heard people online say Haicheng University is really good. Once you start school, you're not allowed to work part-time anymore. If you need money, I'll give it to you. I rode my electric scooter to take him to catch the evening high-speed train back to his hometown. He kept saying gentle, coaxing words the whole way. After seeing him off on the train, I suddenly realized that his change in attitude had come about a bit too strangely. Could it be that he was also reborn? I couldn't help but feel curious, but in the end, I didn't ask. After starting school, he indeed sent me money on time every month. While using the money he gave me, I saved all the money I earned myself, just in case. Even now, I still don't quite trust them, afraid that in the next second we'll revert to our old ways of cutting off all contact. Zhao Qirong often sends me messages, and I occasionally reply with a few words. To be honest, the conversations I've had with him in both my lifetimes combined don't add up to as many as we've had this semester. It's as if he's been possessed by a doting father. He's been incredibly good to me. Not only does he often check in on me, but he also frequently sends me money and red envelopes. Every time, I accept them without hesitation. Who would turn down money? Whenever he gives, even if it's just $1, I take it. Although we stay in touch, our relationship remains rather distant. The days just kept passing by. It was actually more comfortable than in my previous life. Back then, my mother refused to give me more living expenses. In a top-tier city like Haicheng, my monthly allowance was only 800 yuan. Every day when I opened my eyes, I was worrying about how to avoid going hungry. I spent almost all my time outside of classes working various part-time jobs. Now, with the living expenses my father provides, I have plenty of time to focus on my studies. After the final exams, my father kept messaging me, hoping I would come home. I hesitated, afraid that my mother might sell me off again to some fool or cripple as a favor. I didn't answer his call, so he kept sending messages to explain. Zhao Yuan and that woman have long since broken it off. I've already talked to your mom. She's not in a hurry for you to get married. No matter what, we have to let you finish your studies, right? Don't let this keep you from coming home. You said you wanted to work. You can work anywhere, can't you? Come back first. No matter what, you shouldn't spend the new year alone outside. If you don't come back, I'll go to Haicheng myself to pick you up. My dear, when you grow old, you'll understand what it means to want to care for your parents but find them no longer there. Although we've had some unpleasantness before, there's still such a long road ahead. If a relationship can be mended, then mend it. Don't leave yourself with regrets. His words truly made my heart tremble. I'm almost certain he must know something. Before, although he didn't involve himself in Zhao Yuan's upbringing, he was particularly biased in favor of sons over daughters. They would never treat me this well. Over the past 6 months, I've considered many possibilities. Unless they're certain Zhao Yuan is beyond saving and plan to treat me better so they can coax me into supporting them in their old age. Otherwise, they might be counting on me to raise this unborn child. I was ready to continue fighting with them. Zhao Qirong's words still made my heart leap into my throat. In the end, I still boarded the car back. This time, I had only one purpose in returning, to find out whether my father was truly reborn. Anyway, I've saved up quite a bit of money. If things get uncomfortable at home, I can just leave on the spot. Zhao Qirong came to pick me up at the station. When he saw me, he studied me carefully for a long time. You look much better than you did during summer break. You've put on a little weight and gotten fairer too. He took my suitcase. Your mom heard you were coming back and got up early to clean the house. She even said she's going to show off her cooking skills at lunch. Be good to your mom this time you're back. She's really doing much better now. I turned a deaf ear to this and didn't take it to heart. After all these years of living with my mom, I know exactly what kind of person she is. At most, she might be a little more pleasant to me when she needs something from me. What I didn't expect was that, after returning home, my mother's attitude toward me had indeed changed dramatically. Her belly was already 6 months along. When I arrived home, she was in the courtyard of our residential complex, airing out my quilt with her big belly. Seeing me, she hurried over. You silly child, you said you'd ignore me, and you really haven't spoken to me for over half a year. I didn't know what to say, so I simply said nothing. I followed awkwardly behind my father. The dishes on the table were also very abundant, filling the entire table. During the meal, my father kept trying to smooth things over, and the atmosphere at the table wasn't too awkward until my mom suddenly said, "If only Zhao Yuan were here too, our whole family could be reunited." My dad quickly added food to my bowl. "Why bring him up on such a good day? Don't you know he's already a lost cause?" she stammered. "But, he is still our child after all. Shouldn't we at least let him come in for a reunion meal during the New Year? We'll talk about it when the New Year comes. Why are you in such a hurry now?" After finishing my meal, I went out to look for a part-time job during the winter break. While walking and looking at my phone, I suddenly got bumped into by someone. I looked up and saw it was Zhao Yuan, with dyed yellow hair and a disheveled appearance. He stood in front of me and said, "Give me 50 yuan. I shook my head and turned to leave. Zhao Yuan quickly followed me. "Mom doesn't want me anymore. You've achieved your goal. I'm struggling out here, barely able to afford a meal day after day, and it's all your fault." His words made me laugh in anger. "You dropped out of school and stopped studying on your own. How is that my fault? If you don't take the blame for me, I'll be laughed to death by my classmates. How could I possibly stay at school?" Zhao Yuan angrily kicked the bottle at his feet. "Anyway, I don't care. You're my sister, so you have to take care of me. You went to college with my money. Mom said your college was funded by me. So when you graduate, all the money you earn has to go to me." I was amused. No wonder my mom was being so obedient this time. So this is what she was waiting for. In their minds, the family's money is by default my brother's, and what I spend is my brother's money. It's really quite laughable. Does that mean I've been living on a loan since the day I was born? Seeing that I ignored him, Zhao Yuan tugged at my arm. "I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Don't forget, the money you're spending now is mine. If I decide not to support you through college anymore, you'll have to drop out and stay home just like I did." I looked at him calmly. "Zhao Yuan, to be honest, this is as far as you'll ever go in life. Parents have a legal obligation to support their children. I'm not using your money for my education, so don't act all high and mighty with me. Besides, even if they didn't give me any money, I could still support myself through school. There's no way I'm dropping out. And one more thing, if you need money, go ask your parents, not me. According to the law, as long as our parents are alive, I have no obligation to support you." A strange glint flashed in his eyes. "Are you saying you want me to kill them all? Only then will you give me money to spend?" I shook my head. "No, if you kill them all, you'll have even less chance of spending my money." I never liked talking to him before because he was so foolish. I still don't want to talk to him now because he remains just as foolish. He followed me for a long time, but when he saw I wasn't going to give him any money, he finally left in a huff. I found a job as a supermarket promoter, and after a simple onboarding training, I returned home. As soon as I entered, my mom rushed over to help me with my shoes. "Liar is back. Did you find a job?" "Found it. That's wonderful." I knew being a student at Haicheng University would make it easy to find a job. Once you land a good job, finding a good partner won't be a problem either. She cradled her belly and began to daydream about the future, while I appropriately poured cold water on her enthusiasm. "I'm working as a service staff at a supermarket. There's no technical skill involved at all." "What? Aren't you a student from a 985 university? How can you do such a low-end job?" "No, you need to quit this job right away. Go check out the high-tech park tomorrow and find a more upscale job. Wouldn't that bring honor to your mother's face?" I simply ignored my mom's nagging. What's the difference between high and low in a job? As long as I can earn money, I'm perfectly content. My mom has never worked a day in her life, so naturally, she doesn't understand the hardship of making money. I won't let her words weigh me down either. My mom may not say it out loud, but she still misses Zhao Yuan deeply. I often hear her secretly calling Zhao Yuan on the phone. The spring festival arrived quickly, and thanks to my mom's efforts, Zhao Yuan finally returned home. Once Again, I was the one who opened the door. Seeing it was me, he sneered contemptuously. I thought you had more backbone. I never expected you'd come back too. Just as he spoke, my mother waddled out, her belly swollen. Yuan, you're back. Zhao Yuan's smile instantly froze on his face, his eyes widening in shock. You're pregnant. My mother instinctively covered her belly, but it was already too large, 7 or 8 months along, and impossible to hide. She smiled awkwardly. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you'd feel uncomfortable. Zhao Yuan slammed the door shut with a bang. And now I feel comfortable. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? Didn't you say I was the only one you could rely on in this life? What are you trying to do now? Kick me aside? He glared, as if he wanted to devour someone. My mother was so frightened by him that she kept backing away. No. It's just that I didn't want to get rid of it after finding out. Don't overthink it. Zhao Yuan clenched his fist and slammed it hard against the wall. I stood by watching the drama unfold, not even daring to breathe loudly, yet I was caught in the crossfire of his rage. You knew all along, didn't you? You helped them keep it from me, trying to kick me out of this family. If you look down on me, why did you keep insisting I come home? I really hate all of you. Let me make this clear. In this family, it's either me or him. But not both. You decide what to do. He ran crying into his room, locking the door behind him in a fit of anger, then began throwing things around inside. My mother wiped away her tears, sobbing until she choked up. What do we do? What on earth can we do? My Yuan, seeing how emotional she was, I still called Zhao Qirong. Zhao Qirong was out buying New Year's goods, but upon hearing what I said, he hurried back. He looked at my mother, who was still sobbing, his gaze as if it could burn a hole right through her. Didn't you say? Zhao Yuan agreed. You never mentioned it at all, did you? I'm sorry, I just couldn't bring myself to say it. Yuan is a sensitive child. I wanted to wait a bit before telling him. Zhao Qirong angrily threw the New Year's goods on the ground. You know he's sensitive, yet you kept putting it off. Were you planning to wait until the child's full-month banquet to tell him? Son, you're really going to be the death of me. With that, he went to knock on Zhao Yuan's door. Open up, it's your dad. Zhao Yuan shouted from inside. If you don't get an abortion, I'm not coming out. Zhao Qirong was furious and grabbed a claw hammer to smash the door. Are you even speaking human language? Your mother's belly is already so big, and you still want an abortion? I might as well beat you to death right now, so you won't harm society anymore. My mother, holding her belly, walked up to my father and said softly, why don't we find someone to check the baby's gender first? If it's a girl, we can just abort it. My father was so angry he almost rolled his eyes. You're already 47, and being pregnant is hard enough as it is, and you still want an abortion. Why didn't you do it when you were earlier in the pregnancy? I'm really fed up with you. How far are you planning to spoil Zhao Yuan before you're satisfied? No matter what, he's still a child, with a parents. When did it become his turn to run this household? The day ultimately ended in utter chaos. My mom posted on a social media platform. She uploaded a photo of her pregnant belly, hoping netizens could help guess whether it was a boy or a girl. Netizens shared their opinions one after another. Aside from a few who criticized her for favoring sons over daughters, the comments section remained relatively harmonious. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but my mom thought the baby in her belly was a girl and wanted to have an abortion. But when she went to the hospital, the doctor repeatedly emphasized the health of the fetus and the risks of the procedure. They didn't agree to perform the surgery. After returning home, as soon as she told Zhao Yuan the news, he started throwing a fit. Fine, then keep it. You got a new kid, so you don't need me anyway. I'm leaving. Zhao Yuan's trick was quite effective. My mother, with her bulging belly, rushed to bump into the corner of the table. Yuan, I'll get rid of this child right now. Don't be so unreasonable. I really couldn't hold back and stepped forward to pull her back. Can't the two of you snap out of it? He's acting out, and you're going along with it. The doctor wasn't wrong. You are a high-risk case. What exactly are you being so stubborn about? My mother, stopped by me, was still unwilling to give up. Didn't I take such a big risk just to have a son? But this pregnancy, with its round belly, is definitely a girl. What's the point of risking my life to give birth to a girl? I was so angry I was completely speechless. But I still firmly stopped her from hitting her stomach. Nowadays, children can survive after being born, so why create this kind of sin, especially because of the preference for sons over daughters? However, I never expected that very night. Just as I had fallen into a light sleep, I heard my father's roar from the living room. What are you doing? Realizing something was wrong, I quickly ran outside. The front door was left open, but the faint scent of blood lingered in the air. I walked to the doorway and looked out. My mother was clutching her stomach, writhing in pain on the ground. Zhao Yuan stood nearby with an indifferent expression, showing no reaction at all to my father's furious outburst. It was my mom who told me to push her. If you don't believe me, ask her yourself. She said she wanted to abort this baby because it's a girl. What does that have to do with me? It's really not my fault. We live in an old-style apartment building, on the 4th floor. Just as Zhao Qirong and Zhao Yuan were arguing back and forth, my mom was lying at the corner of the stairs, groaning in pain. In the end, I couldn't bear it and called for an ambulance. Ironically, the stillborn was a boy. When my mother heard the news, she buried her head under the covers and never lifted it again. My father tied Zhao Yuan up at home, beating him whenever the thought crossed his mind, again and again. What made it even more ironic was that the very next day happened to be New Year's Eve. From then on, I began shuttling back and forth, taking care of my mother at the hospital, then returning home to cook for them. On the day she was discharged, I went to handle the paperwork. My mother took my hand and held it in hers. Liar, having a daughter really is better. All the other patients have been envying me these past few days with you taking such good care of me. I smiled and withdrew my hand. I just felt sorry for you and took care of you for a few days. Besides, my dad is paying me the nursing fee. When I got home, Zhao Yuan was still tied up. As soon as he saw my mom, he wriggled over urgently. Mom, please save me. My dad and my sister want to kill me. Mom, seeing Zhao Yuan in such a miserable state, my mother's heart felt as if it had been pricked by a needle. Her hands trembling, she moved to untie Zhao Yuan, only to be scolded by my father. Son, if you dare to let him go, we're getting a divorce. My mother immediately grew frantic. Zhao Qirong, are you out of your mind? He's our only son left. What if you hurt him badly? Who's going to take care of you when you're old? My father pointed at me. I have Zhao to take care of me. A girl will belong to another family once she gets married. If she wants to take care of you, she'll have to see if her husband agrees. You really think she matters? My mother pulled Zhao Yuan over. Fine, let's divorce. Even if I divorce you, I want my son to be well. My father was so angered by these words that he immediately went to the study, turned on the computer, and started drafting the divorce agreement. After being untied, Zhao Yuan couldn't stop the tears from flowing. He clung to my mother, crying as if his heart were breaking, recounting everything he had been through over the past few days. The two of them wept in each other's arms for a long while before I, feeling restless, returned to my room. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen, a sense of unease enveloping me. Zhao Yuan took out insurance policies for my dad and me, with my mom as the beneficiary, life and accident insurance. One night, I got up to use the bathroom and overheard them whispering on the balcony. Little did I know, I had stumbled upon a sinister plot. From their conversation, I learned they were plotting how to kill us both. Not only could they make it look like an accident, but they would also receive a large insurance payout. I was dumbfounded. It turns out that wicked people will always be wicked, no matter what. This is innate, fundamentally unchanging regardless of the shifts in circumstances. I remained silent, quietly slipping back into my room. I didn't sleep a wink all night, to be honest. I just want to keep to myself and stay out of trouble. In such an environment, it's already difficult to ensure one's own safety, let alone guarantee someone else's, especially since Zhao Qirong and I have no emotional connection to speak of. Just as I was struggling with whether to tell him about my mother and Zhao Yuan's scheme, my father suddenly sent me a message, asking me to go have hot pot with him tonight. Your mother and I are getting a divorce. Who do you want to live with? He asked, without hesitation. I replied, I'm already 18, I don't need custody, but he ignored my words and continued on his own. Come with me, Zhao Yuan will definitely go with your mother. Although I haven't treated you very well in the past, everything you've ever had was bought with my money. I'm the one who raised you all these years. I haven't been bad to you. When the time comes, I'll buy a small house under your name, and we can live there together. During the meal, he kept talking about his visions for the future. I went from feeling impatient at first to eventually responding to him. He grew visibly happier and happier. After dinner, we walked home together. As we approached the front door, he told me, I asked a friend to find you a cushy job with room and board included. You can start tomorrow morning. I've always been keen on making money, so I agreed without a second thought. All right, he smiled and ruffled my hair. Life is a long road. Take your time growing up. The sudden affection left me a bit flustered. I've never been like this with him before. This is the first time. The next day, I went to the place he mentioned to work. On the 6th day, the police suddenly came looking for me. Zhao Lai, your father has passed away, the beneficiary of his estate and insurance is you. Your mother and your brother were both killed by him. I kept turning these words over and over in my mind, frantically chewing on them. Unable for a long time to grasp what they truly meant, in a daze, I followed the police to the station. The forensic examiner and the investigating officers told me what had happened, along with my father's confession letter and suicide note. I unfolded them and read, and in the end, tears fell. Before I left, the officer hesitated and asked, "Did your father have any mental illness?" "I'm just asking." No other meaning intended. I held the letter and shook my head. "He's perfectly healthy." Confession letter: I am Zhao Qirong, and today I am going to kill my wife and my son. I am not mentally ill, and my mind is perfectly clear right now. My son Zhao Yuan, together with my wife Sun Yu, tried to kill both me and my daughter. There is recorded evidence. You can check it on my phone. To protect my daughter, I intend to strike first. I am not a good father, but I want to try to be one this time. Suicide note: liar. I'm sorry, what I said that day was actually a lie. I have resolved to die. And no matter what, there will be no future for us. I only hope that in the future, when you think of me, you can sincerely call me Dad. I've let you down, failing to provide you with a good living environment. I've harmed you for 2 lifetimes. All my inheritance is left to you. Study hard, and don't return to this city in the future. Live a good life out there, and forget all of this. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. They fought fiercely over the custody of my sister, but when it came to me, no one wanted me. In my past life, to stop their arguments, I chose to go with my abusive father. He and my stepmother beat me to death. The only one who truly cared for me, my aunt, arrived to find nothing but my cold, lifeless body. This time, I chose neither of them. With the 30,000 yuan they gave me, I returned to my aunt's home in the town. Before leaving, my sister sat in Mom's luxury car, her face full of mockery. Even though Mom and Dad don't love you, staying with them is still better than going to the countryside to live a hard life, right? Don't come looking for me in the future. All the family's money is mine. I don't envy her. By my calculations, it won't be long before my parents' company goes bankrupt. The air conditioning in the law firm's conference room was set to a very low temperature. I sat at one end of the long table, facing my father, my mother, and their respective lawyers. My sister, Lin Yu, sat beside my mother, wearing a newly bought princess dress and holding a pink rabbit plush toy in her arms. She is 8 years old this year, 5 years younger than me. The lawyer was reading the divorce agreement, his voice steady, as if reciting an ordinary business contract. Who gets the property, who gets the cars, how to divide the savings, and how to handle the company shares. At the end of the reading, the lawyer paused and looked at me. He said that regarding the custody of the eldest daughter, Lin Yan, the 2 parties needed to negotiate. The conference room suddenly fell silent. That kind of quiet wasn't the absence of sound, it was everyone waiting to see who would speak first, who would make the first move. I looked at the 2 people across from me. My father, Lin Jiangwo, 45 years old, runs a building materials business. In recent years, his business has been doing well. He drives a Mercedes and wears a Rolex on his wrist. My mother, Zhou Yakin, 42 years old, owns a beauty salon. She usually enjoys playing mahjong and loves showing off her bags and jewelry to her friends. They've been married for 18 years and have been arguing for 15. I'm 13 years old and have witnessed 13 years of their war. The lawyer repeated once more, asking both parties to state their positions regarding the custody of their eldest daughter. My father glanced at me, then looked at my mother and said, "Yaya goes with you, Nian comes with me." My mother immediately retorted, "On what grounds? Yaya is my daughter, and Nian is also my daughter. Who are you to decide how they should be divided?" My father asked, "Then how do you want to divide them?" My mother said, "Both will stay with me." My father sneered and said, "Can you afford to raise them? How much does that shabby beauty salon of yours earn in a month?" My mother's face flushed red as she said, "You think I can't afford to raise her? Do you think you're so rich? That failing company of yours, how much debt do you owe? Don't you have any idea?" My father retorted, "Even with debts, I'm still better off than you. At least I have the ability to pay them back." My mother shot back, "You have the ability? If you're so capable, why are you still fooling around with other women?" My father sneered, "What's wrong with me seeing other women? Aren't you also running around with other men?" They started to argue. The voices grew louder and louder. The lawyer tried to interrupt, but it was no use. My younger sister, Lin Yu, hugged her rabbit plushie, tears falling as she whispered, "Mom, I'm scared." My mother immediately stopped, pulled Lin Yu into her arms, and said, "Don't be afraid, sweetheart, Mom is here." My father glanced at it, said nothing, and lit a cigarette. The lawyer cleared his throat and asked, "So, what are both parties' opinions regarding the custody of the eldest daughter?" My mother said, "I don't want her." My father said, "I don't want her either." The conference room fell silent once more. This silence was different from the one before. Just now was waiting. "This time is settled." The lawyer was taken aback and said, "Neither side wants her." My mother said, "Nian Nian is already 13. She can choose for herself." My father said, "Right, let her choose for herself." The lawyer looked at me and asked, "Miss Lin Nian, what is your opinion?" I sat there, looking at the two people across from me. They were both watching me, but there was no expectation in their eyes, only an impatience, a sense of, "Hurry up and decide, don't waste our time." I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but it felt like a stone was lodged in my throat. In my past life, I chose my dad, because my mom said she wanted to start over with Lin Yu and didn't want to be held back by me. My dad said, "Then come with me, I'm living alone anyway." I thought that by following my dad, I'd at least still have a home. As a result, my father quickly remarried, marrying a woman 15 years his junior named Zhongli. Zhongli treated me well, at least on the surface, but she had a habit of speaking ill of me in front of my father. She said I was disobedient, that I stole her money, that I got into fights at school, and that I talked back to her. At first, my dad would ask me questions, but later he stopped asking and just started hitting me. He used a belt, a clothes hanger, anything he could grab within reach. By the end, I had stopped crying. I just lay on the floor, waiting for him to finish. In the winter when I was 16, I came home half an hour late, and my dad and Zhongli beat me together. My father whipped me with his belt, while Zhongli kicked me from the side, calling me a worthless burden, saying my existence was just a waste of food. I remember it was very cold that day, the floor was icy, and I lay there, staring at the flickering light on the ceiling. Then I remember nothing more. When I woke up again, I had returned to the age of 13, back in this meeting room, back at this moment of choice. The lawyer was still waiting for my answer. I took a deep breath and said, "I choose neither." Everyone in the meeting room froze. My mother said, "What did you say?" I said, "I'm not choosing anyone. I want to go to Auntie's house." My father frowned and said, "What are you going to Auntie's house for?" I said, "Auntie told me that if I didn't want to stay with you, I could go to her place." My mother sneered and said, "That rundown place of your aunt's, what future could you possibly have there?" I said, "That's still better than staying with you." As those words left my mouth, I saw my mother's face change, and my father's finger twitched, causing the ash from his cigarette to fall onto the table. The lawyer said that if the child chooses to stay with another guardian, both parties must agree, and a certain amount of child support must be paid. My father said, "Child support?" The lawyer said, "Yes. According to the law, parents have the obligation to support their minor children." My father glanced at me and asked, "How much?" The lawyer said, "Typically 20 to 30% of monthly income." My father said, "That's too much." My mom said, "I think that's too much as well." The lawyer said, "Then both parties can negotiate a figure." My dad and my mom exchanged a glance, and then my dad said, "A one-time payment of 30,000. And that's the end of it." My mom said, "I agree." The lawyer looked at me and asked, "Lin Nian, what's your opinion?" I said, "It's fine." The procedures were handled quickly. A week later, I received the 30,000 yuan in cash, packed in a craft paper bag, a thick stack of bills. My father handed me the money and said, "Take it, don't come looking for me again." I said, "I won't." He nodded, turned, and walked away without even saying goodbye. My mother arrived a bit later, driving her newly bought BMW. The car was white, gleaming brightly, parked at the entrance of the neighborhood. Impossible to miss. Lin Yu sat in the passenger seat, saw me come out, rolled down the window, and shouted at me, "Sis, are you really going to the countryside?" I said, "It's a town, not the countryside." She pouted and said, "A town is still the countryside anyway, definitely not as good as the city." My mom sat in the driver's seat, wearing sunglasses, and didn't get out of the car. She just honked the horn, signaling for me to come over. I walked over, and she rolled down the car window, took a bank card from her bag, and handed it to me. She said, "There's 5,000 yuan in the card, the password is your birthday, take it." I took it and said, "Thank you." She said, "Live well with your aunt from now on, don't cause trouble." I said, "I understand." She nodded, ready to roll up the window, when Lin Yu suddenly said, "Mom, let's go." I don't want to see her anymore. My mother didn't say a word, but the window rolled up. Linyu leaned against the window, making a face at me and said, even though mom and dad don't love you, staying with them is still better than going to the countryside to live a hard life, right? She paused for a moment, then added, don't come looking for me in the future, all the family's money is mine. The car drove away, the white BMW gleaming in the sunlight, quickly disappearing at the intersection. I stood where I was, watching the direction the car had vanished. Unmoving, a passing neighbor glanced at me and muttered something under their breath. I didn't catch it, nor did I want to. I turned around, carrying my suitcase, and headed toward the bus stop. The bus was crowded. I stood near the door, holding onto the handrail, with my suitcase placed at my feet. The bus moved slowly, stopping and starting along the way. The scenery outside the window gradually shifted from towering skyscrapers to low-rise houses, then to fields and woods. As I gazed out the window, I remembered my previous life, when I hadn't gone to my aunt's house. I live with my dad in his new house with Zhongli. The house is big, with 3 rooms, but mine is the smallest, right next to the kitchen. Every day, I can smell the cooking fumes. Zhongli won't let me use the living room, saying I'll dirty the sofa. She won't let me use the dining table, saying my eating manners are unsightly. She won't let me watch TV, saying I'll disturb her rest. Every day after school, I come home and hide in my room, doing homework, reading books, waiting for time to pass. My dad rarely came home. His business was getting busier and busier, and he often went on business trips, each lasting a week. Once, I asked him, Dad, when are you coming back? He said, I don't know. Is something wrong? I said, no, I just wanted to ask. He said, if it's nothing important, then don't ask. I'm busy. Then he hung up the phone. I sat in the room, staring at the words, call ended, on the phone screen, and suddenly felt as if I no longer had a home. The bus arrived at the station. I got off, carrying my suitcase, and walked toward the town. The town wasn't large, with a single main street lined on both sides by shops, selling clothes, vegetables, daily necessities, and a few small restaurants, their doorways adorned with red lanterns. There weren't many people on the street, only the occasional motorcycle passing by, chugging along with a puttering sound. I walked to the end of the street and turned into a narrow alley, paved with bluestone slabs, flanked by old houses with walls thickly covered in ivy. Auntie's house was at the very end of the alley, a 2-story building with pale yellow exterior walls and an osmanthus tree planted by the entrance. I stood at the door, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. The door opened quickly. Auntie stood in the doorway, saw me, paused for a moment, then smiled. She said, Nien Nien, you're here. I said, Auntie, I'm here. She said, come in quickly. It's hot outside. I walked in carrying my suitcase, and my aunt took my bag, asking, why are you alone? Where are your parents? I said, they didn't come. She paused for a moment, then said, they didn't come. I said, I'll be living with you from now on. She looked at me, something flickering in her eyes, then she said, all right, it's good to live here. Auntie welcomes you. Auntie tidied up a room for me on the 2nd floor. The room wasn't big, but it was clean. The window faced the backyard, where I could see a small vegetable patch and a few fruit trees. The bedsheet was new, pale blue, with a little bear placed on the pillow. It was something my aunt had bought for her daughter before. Her daughter was now studying at a university in the provincial capital and only came back once or twice a year. My aunt said, you should rest for a while. I'll make something delicious for dinner. I said, Aunt, there's no need to go to any trouble. She said, it's no trouble at all. I'm happy you're here. She finished speaking and went downstairs. I could hear her bustling about in the kitchen, the sound of running water, the chopping of vegetables, and the sizzle of oil in the pan. I sat on the bed, looking around the room. A few posters were stuck on the wall, featuring some celebrities I didn't recognize. They were probably put up by my cousin in the past. On the desk sat a lamp and a few books, high school textbooks. There's a pot of pothos on the windowsill, its leaves so green they seem to glow. My aunt must water it often. Suddenly, it struck me that this room felt more like a home than my own in the city. Dinner was a feast: braised pork, steamed fish, stir-fried greens, and a tomato egg soup. Auntie said, eat more, look how thin you are. I said, Auntie, I'm not thin. She said, you are thin, you weren't like this before. I lowered my head, picked up a piece of braised pork, and put it in my mouth. The meat was tender, melting in the mouth with a hint of sweetness, the flavor I loved most as a child. It suddenly occurred to me that in my previous life, the last time I tasted this flavor was when I was 10 years old. Back then, my parents hadn't divorced yet. My aunt came to the city to visit me and cooked a table full of dishes, including this braised pork. I ate a lot, and my aunt smiled, saying, "Take your time, don't choke." Later, my parents divorced, and I went to live with my father. My aunt came to see me a few times, but each time, Zhongli stopped her at the door. Zhongli said, "Nian Nian is doing her homework and can't be disturbed." My aunt said, "I'm her aunt, not a stranger." Zhongli said, "That still won't do. The child needs to study." Auntie didn't insist any further. She stood at the door, glanced at me through the crack, then turned and left. I stood in the room, listening to her footsteps fading away. I wanted to chase after her, but my feet felt nailed to the floor, unable to move. After dinner, Auntie told me to go take a bath while she cleared the dishes. I said, "Auntie, let me wash them." She said, "No need, go take a bath, you have to report to school tomorrow." I said, "School?" She said, "Yes, the middle school in town. I've already made arrangements. I'll take you to complete the formalities tomorrow." I paused for a moment and said, "So soon?" She said, "Get it done early, and you can have peace of mind sooner." I nodded and went upstairs to take a shower. While showering, I stood in front of the mirror, looking at my reflection. At 13, I hadn't fully grown into my features yet. My face still carried a hint of baby fat, and my eyes were large, but there was something in their gaze that didn't belong to someone my age. I reached out and touched my own face, confirming that this was real. I had truly returned. I had gone back to being 13, back to a time before everything had happened. The middle school in town was called Qingshan Middle School, a very ordinary school with only 3 floors in the teaching building, a cement playground, and no rubber track. When my aunt took me to complete the enrollment procedures, the dean of students looked at my documents and said, "Transferred from the city?" My aunt said, "Yes, the child will live with me from now on." The head teacher nodded and asked, "How are her grades?" My aunt glanced at me, and I said, "They're okay." The head teacher said, "Then we'll assign her to class 3 of grade 7 for now. The homeroom teacher is surnamed Wang, a very kind person. Study hard." I said, "Got it." The procedures were handled quickly, finished in less than half an hour. Auntie took me to the classroom, which was on the 2nd floor. A sign hung by the door read, "Class 3, grade 7. Auntie knocked on the door, and a female teacher opened it. She looked to be in her 30s, wearing glasses, and had a gentle smile. She said, "You must be Lin Nian, right? I'm Teacher Wang. Welcome." I said, "Hello, Teacher Wang." She said, "Come in, I'll assign you a seat." Auntie stood at the door for a moment and said to me, "Nian Nian, study well in class. I'll come pick you up after school." I said, "Auntie, there's no need to pick me up. I can get back on my own." She said, "On the first day, I'll come to pick you up." Nodded, and she turned and walked away, her figure looking a bit lonely in the light of the hallway. Teacher Wang assigned me a seat by the window in the 3rd row. My desk mate was a boy named Zhang Hao, who was very thin and wore a pair of black-framed glasses. He saw me sit down and whispered, "Hello, my name is Zhang Hao." I said, "Hello, my name is Lin Nian." He asked, "Are you from the city?" I replied, "Yes." He asked, "Is the city good?" I said, "It's okay." He didn't ask any more. Lowering his head to continue reading, I sat there, looking out the window. Outside was the playground, where a few students were running, and a few others were playing basketball. The sunlight was brilliant, casting a golden glow upon them as if they were gilded. Suddenly, I felt that this place might not be as bad as I had imagined. In my previous life, I had never set foot in this school. I attended school in the city through high school, but my grades were never good because I couldn't focus on studying. Every day, all I thought about was how to avoid my dad and Zhongli, how to get through the day without another beating. In my 2nd year of high school, I started skipping classes, hanging out with shady people, smoking, drinking, and getting into fights. When my dad found out, he beat me, called me useless, and said I was a disgrace to him. I lay on the ground, looking at him, and said, "Then don't worry about me." He said, "I shouldn't worry about you. Do you think I want to?" I said, "Then just don't." He said, "Fine, I won't. Do whatever you want." Then he really stopped caring. I lived alone in that tiny room, eating instant noodles every day, drinking tap water, and sometimes when I was too hungry to bear it, I'd steal from convenience stores. I got caught once. The clerk called the police, and when the officers arrived, they asked who my parents were. I said, "I don't have any." The police said, "How could there be no parents?" I said, "There just aren't." Later, the police contacted my dad. He came, paid the store clerk, then took me home and gave me another beating. That time, he hit me especially hard. I remember lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, thinking, if I died, would anyone be sad? The answer is, no. The bell rang for the end of class, and the students began packing their bags, ready to leave school. Zhang Hao turned around and said to me, "Where do you live?" "I can walk you part of the way," I said. "No need, my aunt will come to pick me up," he said. "Oh, okay then." He picked up his backpack, gave me a smile, and then left. I sat in my seat, waiting for my aunt. The classroom grew emptier and emptier, until finally, I was the only one left. I look out the window, the sun is about to set, and the sky is a beautiful orange-red. Suddenly, I wonder, if I had come here in my past life, would things have been different? Would I not have died? By the time my aunt came to pick me up, it was already dark. She was riding an electric scooter, parked at the school gate. Seeing me come out, she waved at me. I walked over, and she said, "Have you been waiting long?" I said, "No, I just came out." She said, "Get on, let's go home." I sat on the back seat, my aunt pedaling slowly. The streetlights lit up one by one along the road, casting a bright glow. The wind brushed against my face, a little cool, but comfortable. Suddenly, I realized it had been a long time since I'd felt this way, that feeling of someone waiting for you, someone picking you up, someone caring about you. Back home, my aunt made dinner, and it was still quite lavish. During the meal, my aunt asked me how school was going. I said it was fine. She asked, "Are your classmates treating you well?" I said, "It's okay, I have a desk mate named Zhang Hao, he's a good guy." She said, "That's good, if anything comes up in the future, just tell your aunt." I said, "Got it." She smiled and went back to eating. Halfway through the meal, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw it was an unfamiliar number. I answered, and a woman's voice came through, sharp and piercing. She said, "Lin Yen." I said, "It's me. Who are you?" She said, "I'm a friend of your mom's. Your mom's had an accident. Come to the hospital quickly." I paused for a moment and said, "What happened?" She said, "A car accident. It's serious. Come quickly." Then she hung up. I sat there, phone still in hand, my mind a complete blank. Auntie saw my expression and asked, "What's wrong?" I said, "My mom was in a car accident." She paused for a moment and asked, "Is it serious?" I said, "I don't know, they told me to go to the hospital." She said, "Then let's go right now." The hospital was in the city, an hour's drive from the town. Auntie drove her minivan the whole way without saying a word, and I didn't speak either. The car was very quiet, with only the sound of the engine and the occasional honk from outside the window. I stared out the window, my mind a jumbled mess. In my past life, my mother had never been in a car accident, at least in my memory. There isn't. Then why did the car accident happen in this life? Did my choices change something? By the time we reached the hospital, it was already past 9 in the evening. The lights in the emergency room were very bright. The hallway was crowded with people, some crying, some on the phone, others just sitting with empty stares. I went to the nurse's station and asked where my mother was. The nurse checked and said, "She's in the ICU on the 3rd floor. Are you family?" I replied, "Yes, I'm her daughter." The nurse said, "Then go to the 3rd floor and find the doctor on duty." My aunt and I went up to the 3rd floor and found the doctor on duty. He was a middle-aged man wearing a mask, with bloodshot eyes. He asked, "Are you Zhou Yakin's daughter?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Your mother's condition isn't good. The car accident caused intracranial bleeding, and she's currently in emergency surgery. Whether she can be saved is still uncertain." I listened, my heart not stirring with much emotion. It wasn't that I was cold-blooded, it was that in my previous life, I had grown accustomed to this feeling of potentially losing something at any moment. I said, "I understand." The doctor said, "You wait outside first, I'll notify you if there's any news." I nodded, turned around, and walked to sit on the chair in the hallway. Auntie sat beside me, took my hand, and said, "Don't be afraid, everything will be fine." I said, "Auntie, I'm not afraid." She looked at me, her eyes holding something I couldn't quite put into words. It seemed like heartache, yet also like worry. After waiting 2 hours, the door to the emergency room opened. The doctor came out, took off his mask, and said, "The person has been saved, but they're not out of the danger period yet and need to be monitored." I said, "Thank you, doctor." The doctor said, "You can go in and take a look, but don't stay too long." My aunt and I walked into the ICU. My mother was lying on the hospital bed, her face pale, her head wrapped in bandages, and various tubes inserted into her body. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow, and her chest rose and fell gently. I stood by the bed, looking at her, and suddenly remembered that in my previous life, the last time I saw her was at her beauty salon. I was 15 at the time. Skipping class to find her, wanting to ask for some money. She was giving a customer a facial, and when she saw me come in, she frowned and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I need some money." She said, "Need money again? What happened to the money you took last time?" I said, "It's all spent." She said, "All spent? How did you spend it?" I said, "On food, buying things." She said, "Why do you need so much money for food and shopping? Are you fooling around outside again?" I said, "No." She said, "No, do you think I don't know? Your dad told me you've been fighting at school and skipping classes." I said, "So what?" She said, "So what? You're just a waste, just like your father. Both of you are worthless." I listened, and suddenly felt a chill in my heart. I said, "Then why did you give birth to me in the first place?" She was taken aback for a moment, then said, "What did you say?" I said, "Why did you have me in the first place, since you think I'm useless? Why did you give birth to me?" She didn't answer, just looked at me, with something in her eyes that I couldn't understand. Then she said, "You should go. I don't want to see you." I turned and left. As I walked out of the beauty salon, I heard her telling a customer, "This child really gives me a headache." That was the last time I saw her. My mother stayed in the ICU for a week and finally passed the critical period, being transferred to a regular ward. For the past week, I've come to the hospital every day after school, sitting on the chair outside the ward, waiting for visiting hours. My aunt would come too, sometimes bringing some food, sometimes just sitting with me, keeping me company as we waited. During the visits, my mother always kept her eyes closed and didn't speak. Sometimes when I called her, she would open her eyes to look at me, then close them again. I don't know if she was truly tired, or if she just didn't want to see me, but I still came every day, not because I cared about her, but because I wanted to see if things would be different this time. On the 8th day, my mother finally spoke, lying in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. She suddenly said, "Lin Yen, why do you come every day?" I said, "You are my mother." She fell silent for a moment, then said, "Didn't you choose to go with your aunt?" I said, "That doesn't change the fact that you are my mother." She turned her head to look at me, her eyes complex, filled with guilt, confusion, and something else I couldn't quite name. She asked, "Do you hate me?" This question was too direct. I was taken aback for a moment and said, "I don't know." She said, "You should hate me. I'm not a good mother." I said, "As long as you know." She gave a bitter smile and said, "I know, I've always known." The ward fell silent, with only the beeping of the machines. After a long while, she said, "Lin Yen, I'm sorry." Just these 3 words, so faint they seemed about to be carried away by the wind, but I heard them. Something was stuck in my throat, but I didn't cry. I just said, "You should focus on getting better." My mom was discharged from the hospital a month later. That day, my aunt came to pick us up in her minivan. My mom sat in the back seat, her face still a bit pale, but her spirits were much better. On the way home, my mom suddenly asked, "Where's Lin Yu?" I said, "I don't know. It should be with Dad." She said, "Her dad hasn't been answering my calls lately either." I said, "Maybe he's busy." She said, "Busy with what? What could he possibly be busy with after getting divorced?" I didn't say a word, because I knew my father was truly busy right now, busy dealing with creditors, busy trying to save his nearly bankrupt company. In my previous life, my father's company went bankrupt when I was 14. The reason was that he invested in a construction project, which ended up being abandoned. Not only did he lose all his money, but he also ended up with a mountain of debt. Debt collectors came knocking on the door every day, sometimes even banging on it in the middle of the night. To avoid the debt collectors, my dad often stayed away from home, sometimes hiding for several days at a time. Zhang Li couldn't stand living like this. She had a huge fight with him, packed her things, and left, taking all the valuable items in the house with her. My dad came home to find the house completely emptied out, and he just broke down, sitting on the floor crying. That was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. He cried so pitifully, like a child. A month later, I got a call from Chen Qing. She's my mom's best friend, her voice urgent, saying, "Lin Yen, is your mom with you?" I said, "Yes." She said, quickly, "Let her answer the phone. Something big has happened." I handed my phone to my mom. She took it and asked, "What's going on?" I couldn't hear what was said on the other end of the line, but my mom's face gradually turned pale, and her hands began to tremble. She said, "What? Bankrupt?" Then she added, "What about Lin Yu? Where is Lin Yu? Besides, I know, I'll be right there." She hung up the phone, stood up, swayed for a moment, almost falling. I steadied her and asked, "What's wrong?" She said, "Your father's company has gone bankrupt, and Lin Yu is missing." My aunt and I accompanied my mother to the city. My father no longer lived in the old big house but in an old, run-down residential area, on the 6th floor without an elevator. By the time we climbed up, my mother was already panting heavily, her face even paler. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and inside was a complete mess. The sofa was slashed, the coffee table was overturned, and there were stains on the wall as if something had been splashed on it. My dad was sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall, a bottle of liquor in his hand, his eyes red. Seeing us come in, he froze for a moment and said, "What are you doing here?" My mom asked, "Where's Lin Yu?" My dad replied, "I don't know." My mom said, "What do you mean you don't know? She's your daughter." My dad said, "I know she's my daughter, but I can barely take care of myself right now. How can I possibly look after her?" My mom rushed over, grabbed my dad by the collar, and said, "What did you just say? Say that again." My dad pushed her away and said, "I said I don't have time to look after her. Do you think I want this? I have no choice." My mother staggered, nearly falling, but my aunt caught her. I stood by, watching it all unfold without a flicker of emotion in my heart, because in my past life, I had already witnessed this very scene. Only, in that past life, the one standing here, utterly shattered, wasn't my mother, it was me. Later we found out that my dad had sent Lin Yu to his hometown to be raised by his parents. My dad's parents were nearly 80 years old, in poor health, and simply couldn't manage an 8-year-old child. Lin Yu stayed there for less than a week before she started begging to come back, calling my mom and crying over the phone. My mom listened and cried too, but she couldn't do anything about it. Her own beauty salon was on the verge of closing, and she had neither the money nor the energy to bring Lin Yu back. She called my dad, but he didn't answer. She called my dad's parents, and they said, "We can't control this, you'll have to handle it yourself." She sat in the living room of her aunt's house, clutching her phone, crying like a child. Her aunt sat beside her, gently patting her back, saying, "Don't cry, there will always be a way." I stood at the top of the stairs, watching her cry. Suddenly, I remembered, in my past life, she had cried like this too, only back then, she wasn't crying for Lin Yu, but for herself. The next day, my mother made a decision. She's going to bring Lin Yu back. Auntie said, "In your current situation, how can you bring her back?" My mom said, "I don't care, she's my daughter, I can't just abandon her." Auntie said, "Then what do you plan to do?" My mom said, "I should sell the beauty salon, get the money, and bring Lin Yu back first." My aunt fell silent for a moment and asked, "How much can you get from selling it?" My mom replied, "I don't know, but it's better than nothing." After saying that, she started contacting buyers, lawyers, and handling the procedures. The whole process went quickly, and in less than a week, the beauty salon was sold off. The money we got wasn't much, just 150,000. My mother took that 150,000 and went to my father's hometown to bring Lin Yu back. The day Lin Yu returned, she had lost a lot of weight. Her eyes were red and swollen, and as soon as she saw my mother, she threw herself into her arms and cried. She said, "Mom, I never want to leave you again." My mother held her and cried too, saying, "Okay, Mom won't let you leave again either." They held each other, crying bitterly. My aunt watched from the side, her eyes also reddening. I stood at the doorway, watching this scene, feeling a very complicated emotion in my heart. It wasn't jealousy, nor was it sadness. It was more like the feeling of finally seeing something clearly. My mother loves Lin Yu, that's the truth. But she doesn't love me, that is also true. After Lin Yu returned, she lived with my mother at my aunt's house. My aunt cleared out a room downstairs for the mother and daughter to stay in. The first few days were filled with a strange atmosphere. My mom was busy looking for a job every day, while Lin Yu stayed at home. We occasionally ran into each other, but we never spoke. Once, I was reading in the yard when Lin Yu came out to pour water. She saw me and froze for a moment. She said, "Sis, this is the first time she has called out to me on her own." I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm sorry for what I said in the car that day." I said, "It's fine." She said, "I was immature back then." I said, "Do you understand now?" She was silent for a moment, then said, "I think I understand a little." I looked at her, this 8-year-old girl, whose eyes no longer held the arrogance that only a spoiled child could have. In its place was a kind of caution that comes after experiencing certain things. I said, "You'll understand someday." She nodded and turned back into the house. 2 months later, my mom found a job as a cashier at a supermarket in town. The pay wasn't high, 3,000 yuan a month, but she cherished it. leaving early and returning late every day without a single complaint. Lin Yu also transferred to the town's elementary school, attending the same school as me, though she was in the elementary division while I was in the middle school division. Sometimes after school, we would walk home together, and along the way, she would tell me about things happening at her school. She said she had made a friend named Xiao Yu, who was very kind. She said she had scored first place on an exam, and the teacher praised her for being clever. She said she wanted her mom to be happier, so she was going to study hard. I listened, occasionally humming in agreement, not saying much, but inside, there was a very subtle feeling as if, between us, a different kind of connection